Motherfucker. Motherfucker. Good morning. What do we look for as humans? There is some deal. I think people look for a sense of presence in environments. Across many mediums, that is what draws the individual in. In art, in places, in movies, whatever the content is, there is a trait, and that is the presence. You're searching for some tone that betrays an entity besides the author themselves. You experience one of these examples and you feel that they are larger than life in a way you cannot fully lay out. I've been thinking about this. I am drawn to the example of games because that's what I'm trying to work in. That's where focus is, and I know shit about it. I find myself looking at things that are happening now and why they're not working, and I find myself looking at things now and why they are not working and shit in the past that did work. And what I mean by that is there are some games that are talked about so much, like Fallout New Vegas, for example, right? And what I notice when I look at that is there's something about it. If you play the game, you see that it has all these different mechanics. It has stuff that doesn't really serve a purpose, but it's in there because someone added it. There's so many different kinds of items. When I'm talking about in a newer game, you have a thing that heals you, and it's maybe one thing. In Fallout New Vegas, there's all this random shit. There's random shit, and there's different mechanics that are strange, and they don't seem to all fit into a greater, perfectly articulated system. Sometimes they they were comfortable trying things. Okay, another example that I'm thinking of, which is similar in reception. No, it's not similar in reception. It fits in my head. But it's Dark Souls 2. And I had heard so much shit about that game. So much shit. And I finally played it and I liked it for so much of the same reason. Because it felt like there was stuff that they just fucking tried. The pacing, the environments, the subjection, no, subversion of expectation when it, I don't even like that phrase, bro. The subversion of what you feel like is gonna fucking be there, and it's not just your expectation. It's all the build up, all the tone laid out, and you realize all of that was meticulously arranged. But to do something meticulously does not necessarily mean to do it with the sterile perfection that is applied to some modern games. It can still feel alive or imperfect in a way that makes it more perfect. Like the cat in the area in the hub place has just such an odd.
Once, people tried to round up the undead and hide them away from the world. They thought that imprisoning the undead would solve the problem. They created a towering bastille to contain them, but in the end, it did no good. The lost sinner lives deep within the bastille. The fool, trying to light the first flame.
So many of the characters have personalities that feel more legitimate because of the fact that what I attributed to, in the broadest sense, is that it was the B team making this game, so they felt more comfortable trying stuff. I don't care to specify this more. I just, like, who's gonna fucking look? So this is all about a feeling of presence, and I think where this can extend to is I was thinking about, okay, literature and other art forms and still games even. And I remember I don't remember when this started for me, but I remember there was some fucking thing, some movie or something, and I was so taken by how interesting the premise and the design of this world was. And later I learned that the whole structure for this came from a dream that the author had. And what an interesting thing, and how that directly relates to presence. What an interesting idea, that these things that seem to carry a weight beyond that which a normal person could have the agency to portray or to put into their work. Of course, those things end up coming from somewhere that not even the author themselves has agency over. That is to say, they were not the creator, they were just the medium through which a higher force transcribed their art into a secondary medium. They used the fucking creator, shut the fuck up. They used the person who made the movie as, like I said, a medium. And then the medium for the. Why am I making this so fucking complicated? When you see something in a dream that is compelling enough to turn into a work of art, does that belong to you? Or are you getting it from somewhere else? That's what I'm saying. I discovered. Don't say that. That sounds stupid. I like Tintin, right? The comics. I read them shits when I was a little guy. And fucking Tintin in Tibet came from a dream. I didn't know that. That's fucking bonkers wild. The one that I did know, when I watched Man in a High Castle. I read the book recently. It's shorter. No shit, it's shorter. It's a very good book. It's very different from the TV show. And it's compelling in a way that the TV show did not have. It wasn't able to get there. And I find out fucking Philip K. Dick, the guy who wrote it, this came as like a vision to him. He didn't attribute it to a dream. He has some very interesting philosophical ideals. And in a talk related to this, I was brought the premise of you go through your life, and one day you wake up and the entire world is different. Your story is different. The room is different. Everything about the world is different. And you are in a new world now. You have memories of this new world. Everything is as it should be. You have a linear trajectory, backward and forward, and a coherent story of your life. And everything that existed the day before is gone. But you don't know that. All you have is a feeling that something happened, and you can't. There's no room to figure out what it is because there is so expansively nothing left over. It's not like you wake up from a dream about a 40 ounce and you wake up to find one still with condensation on the outside of it on your bedside table. That would give you a thing to fucking hold to inform the premise you're reaching for, which is the reality of the dream about the 40 ounce. You say, something had to have happened because here is one on my bedstand looking as if it just came out of a refrigerator. No, in this Philip K. Dick premise, everything is gone. You have nothing to relate this sense of absence to because the entire fucking everything was so he has this dream, this experience, right? It feels to him as if he's reliving the past, and the past is the one in the book where the Nazis win the war and it's an alternate history and things move as if that's what it is. It's if like the Nazis won the war, right? And this was back far, and he's talking about very current ideas, wherein this is a simulation of some sort, and there is a governing body that always works. He says in an update, right? In something that moves forward, it never takes stuff away. for the sake of fucking argument, right? Okay. When you update something, when you improve something, he posits that it would be to reduce the net suffering, one of many changes. And so in this experience he's struck by the fact that he remembers this. It doesn't feel like a dream to him. It feels like a memory of a comprehensive, to the degree of being a reality, not just a dream, but something so robust in its construction that it is nothing but a reality. And he sees this possibility and feels tied to the fact that this is where he came from, in a sense. This is one of the iterations before. And in the way I described, everything was changed such that here we are now. Here we are now. And maybe there have been other changes since his time of this speech that he made and today when I'm making this video. But the premise remains that, and this explains in a different way that concept of infinite realities happening all at the same time. It wasn't it was cut at a certain point, and all the fuck this shit.
Conceptual, mentational confusion to the theoretical point I was making about lateral change, you can get a better idea of what I mean. I mean, perhaps you can, to at least a degree, see that although what I'm talking about may not exist, my concept may be fictional, it could exist. It is not intellectually self-contradictory. Contemplating this possibility of a lateral arrangement of worlds, a plurality of overlapping Earths along whose linking axis a person can somehow move, can travel in a mysterious way from worse to fair to good to excellent, contemplating this in theological terms, perhaps we could say that herewith we suddenly decipher the elliptical utterances which Christ expressed regarding the kingdom of God, specifically where it is located. He seems to have given contradictory and puzzling answers. But just suppose for an instant, that the cause of the perplexity lay not in any desire on his part to baffle or to hide, but in the inadequacy of the question. My kingdom is not of this world, he is reported to have said. The kingdom is within you, or possibly it is among you. I put before you now the notion, which I personally find exciting, that he may have had in mind that which I speak of as the lateral axis of overlapping realms, which contain among them a spectrum of aspects ranging from the unspeakably malignant to the beautiful. And Christ was saying over and over again that there really are many objective realms, somehow related, and somehow bridgeable by living, not dead men, and that the most wondrous of these worlds was a just kingdom, in which either he himself or God himself or both of them ruled. And he did not merely speak of a variety of ways of subjectively viewing one world. The kingdom was and is an actual different place at the opposite end of continua, starting with slavery and utter pain. It was his mission to teach his disciples the secret of crossing along this orthogonal path. He did not merely report what lay there. He taught the method of getting there. But, tragically, the secret was lost. The enemy, the Roman authority, crushed it, and so we do not have it. But perhaps we can re-find it, since we know that such a secret exists. Kingdom is ever to be established here on earth, or whether it is a place or state we go to after death. I'm sure I don't have to tell you that this issue has been a fundamental one and an unresolved one throughout the history of Christianity. Christ and St. Paul both seem to say emphatically that an actual breaking through into time, that is specifically what they say, a breaking through into time, into our world, by the host of God, will unexpectedly occur. Thereupon, after some exciting drama, a 1,000-year paradise, a rightful kingdom will be established, at least for those who have done their homework and chores and generally paid attention.
I don't know how it works. I'm just saying there's something incredibly relatable. And again, the sense of presence that I was describing as important is a core to this situation. I think the origin of this story, the origin of the man in the high castle, how it came to him, is core to why the story feels the way it does. And in the story, it's meta in a sense, because the fucking story has a book where inside the man in the high castle, there's a book where the US won the war, and the book was written using the I Ching, which is a fucking like divination tool that's diminutive, and using the I Ching, historical events of what would happen if the US had won the war was used to create the book. So this is in the story, The Man in the High Castle. There's this author who used the I Ching to make a novel about if the US had won the war, and it's, obviously it's condemned, and the book is fucked over because the ruling bodies would not want people to read. It's very interesting, and I feel something beyond just depth tied to that, something that is metaphysical and nebulous, in the sense that I do not have the structure that exists in science to really explain it or go further into it besides what I've already said. And you can imagine, if I'm talking about this shit, I of course have my own anecdotal things that would tilt my belief in a certain direction. So, anyway, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that in the things we seek out as humans, I am sure that a quality governing that seeking is a sense of presence that we cannot define beyond it being somehow past what is ours. When you experience something that is made from another human being, it is clear that it is from another human being. And that, whatever it may be, can only be as interesting as the human being who made it. But you could have someone so boring be struck by a vision or a dream that no one would say belongs to them. And suddenly, the ceiling for the interest of what that person may create vanishes. That's what I'm saying. And I think that is something to be investigated further. Recently, payment provider people, MasterCard bullshit, said, we're not gonna work on your site if you don't take these games off. And right now, it's related to like adult shit, which everybody, But what this suggests is that now there's precedent for fucking Visa, MasterCard to not allow a transaction because it doesn't like... Imagine that. Imagine you have a politically inflammatory thing, and this relates to art so motherfucking clearly, bro. Okay? Just, you can, it's all there. I don't have to even explain anything else for people to be able to say, I get it. You can see where the problem is. That's going on. That's weird. It feels weird. I'm a product of the early internet and the early internet generation. I'm alive with experiences that started when it was the Wild West and when things felt free, and there were downsides to that, but this year, this last month, there have been changes I expected only in a loose, undefined way, because I thought restrictions changes will come in my lifetime. And it's weird, and it's happening, and this is not no fucking sounding the fire alarm for no reason. I think people should pay attention to this. And what I just said about Steam is not the only reason. So, everybody knows about the internet firewall shit in the UK now. Okay? Think about that in conjunction with what I just said. Part of the Steam statement was about internet network providers. It was banks, payment processors, card networks, and internet network providers. I'm not going to say, I am going to say because I'm about to say it, but one of those is not like the others. It's fucking, you can feel it in your gut. You're like, you're doing some shit, okay? The firewall thing, the potential banning of VPNs. I don't want to get political besides this, but, I'm not a fan. Fuck it. I don't want to talk about this shit. Because that feels like, you don't need to know that, right? If this video were about political things, I would be comfortable sharing my political views, but yeah, okay. So, there's that. There's also, related to games, the movement Stop Killing Games, which is related to, there was Concord. Everybody knows about Concord. If you don't, it was a game $400 million was sunk into over like 15 years. It was all online. It comes out and it's gone, like a week, like more than a week. Closed. You can't buy the game. You can't play the game. Now that says two things. One, it says bad job. And also it says a game can be taken away. And don't think of it as a game. Think of that one as some shit. Something. But games, when they are used as such, are a incredible medium for art, in the sense that they are an engine for conveyance that is very powerful. And if large organizations with little compassion for such a thing have the ability to remove a game, to wipe it, to make it so nobody can buy it, nobody can play it if it's online, it's gone, there's issues there. It's going to take a long time to get into all this, but the point is it's easy to make it still accessible. The arguments are BS. You can make communities, if it's an online thing, community servers, which means little people can still play the game online and they can do all the work themselves and the company doesn't have to do anything. And the arguments against that, they're lying. They're just straight up. What this is about is the removal of content. Okay? Don't make it dramatic yet, but it's not like this isn't a trend. It's not like and you're asking yourself, why is he sitting and looking into the fucking projector screen? I don't know. I thought it was fun. I just like this. I like the environmental deal, okay? The mind is a mysterious thing. The last thing I want to say is I'm not no pro AI, but I stay up to date on it because I feel like it's relevant. There's whatever. So, what has been interesting to me for a little while is if we get to a point where I can take Dark Souls 3 and I can put the whole game up against the AI, and the AI can reach in and hook into it, and I can explore. When I was, man, fuck this. This is already so fucking long. Look. You're walking around. You go somewhere. You've been before. You know the fucking game because you played the game. And you say, oh my god, this gap between the trees wasn't here before. And now I can go through there and keep walking. And what the fuck is this? I've never seen this shit before. And it's a whole new environment. And it's an addendum. And it's good. And it feels good, and it feels like the rest of the fucking game. Now, I said I'm not pro AI. Just take that shit and put it somewhere else, okay? But wouldn't that be fucking wild? Because then the fucking sense of presence, the mystery is there. When you play something, a game that was made by a person, unless it's procedural, right? That's different, but it's so different that it's a different discussion. It was made by a person. When it was made by a person, it was made by a person, which means everything you're going to experience, again, to whatever degree, oh fuck, god damn it, suck my dick, it's already established. You're on a track. That's what you're going to experience. That's the game. But if you have an AI that can hook into the game, function with all the mechanics, keep it running indistinguishably in terms of movement, you get what I'm fucking saying. That is a compelling prospect. Because there's the potential to have profound experiences that transcend the conventional confines of what can be in a video game, because there is no one governing it besides a system that could potentially be open to influence by greater forces. You say, well, those forces can influence a human the same way. Yes, but the window of influence for a human is when the game is in production. But this is real time. This is the AI doing it as you are playing it, which means the prospect for philosophically straining occurrences, metaphysical peculiarities, is in the present, not something that is established beforehand. Still potentially very profound, but not active. If you see what I'm saying, cool. I just saw a thing called Genie 3.
Interactive environment generated by Genie 3, a new frontier for world models. With Genie 3, you can use natural language to generate a variety of worlds and explore them interactively, all with a single text prompt. Let's see what it's like to spend some time in a world. Genie 3 has real-time interactivity, meaning that the environment reacts to your movements and actions. You're not walking through a pre-built simulation. Everything you see here is being generated live as you explore it. And Genie 3 has world memory. That's why environments like this one stay consistent. World memory even carries over into your actions. For example, when I'm painting on this wall, my actions persist. I can look away and generate other parts of the world. But when I look back, the actions I took are still there. And Genie 3 enables promptable events, so you can add new events into your world on the fly. Something like another person, or transportation, or even something totally unexpected. You can use Genie to explore real-world physics and movement, and all kinds of unique environments. You can generate worlds with distinct geographies, historical settings, fictional environments, and
I thought it would be 5 years before we got to where we are. Every time there's a new thing that comes out, I feel the need to say that to myself. It's moving very fast. What I just described, I'm sure will be sooner than I anticipate. I think it is something AI in a pragmatic type of coverage is something people my age and younger should be paying attention to. I'm not saying it's a responsibility or some shit like that. But it's not gonna stop. It's an arms race right now. It's not gonna slow down. No country. It's not gonna fucking happen, bro. If you look at this shit, you can see that it's only gonna get faster. And I mean, I don't want to talk about that. You guys are smart. So think about that. Think about that. And good morning.